Welcome back to Open Up. We'd like to thank some of our sponsors for being with us.
Wonderful businesses that stand with us.
Yes.
Here we go. First of all, this wonderful new health therapy, the Colon Therapy Center out at Callaway and Brimhall with Janet Eileen Mitchell. And we just keep hearing these wonderful health benefits that people are experiencing by going through this very gentle internal cleansing. You can reach them at bakersfieldcolonics.com. There's the number right there, 661-378-3408. Also, Personal Express Just Express Car Wash. 7 locations here in the area. I mean, 5 minutes, you're in, you're out, you're on your way. You got a beautiful car. It's just great. Frank Hoban and the boys over there, thanks so much for being with us.
Yes, Don, and we'd like to thank our friends at Kern Construction and Electric Incorporated. Robert Miller's a longtime resident of Bakersfield. He loves to remodel your home or business, so give him a call at 661-322-5554. Thank you, Robert.
And we're supercharging our immune system with these wonderful health drinks. I've gone from green to red, killer C here.
Everything vitamin C. So Nature's Food Market and Juice Bar, Chuck and Wendy Noss, we thank you.
Man, if I couldn't drink it, I'd do it intravenously. I mean, this is good stuff. All right. We're here with Jesse Whitten of the Kemble Whitten Law Firm. We just heard from Clayton. He hopes to be here in about 50 minutes. He's been tied up in court. This is how busy these guys are with criminal defense here in Bakersfield. But anyway, the question is at the break, you know, let's just say we're driving down the street. Suddenly it lights up behind us. Cop comes, and for some reason, we're under arrest. How, at that point, or let's just start as he approaches the car, how should an ordinary citizen, how should we conduct ourselves when we see an officer approaching, perhaps with the intent to arrest us?
Well, initially, there's some amount of cooperation you have to give the officer. I think it's definitely always a good idea to be respectful and don't start ranting about how you know your rights and the police are out there shooting people. Just be respectful. There's certain things you have to do if they require your license and registration or, but then at a certain point, if it it's very, very crucial not to make statements. And this is so hard to convince people of because they think they have nothing to hide. They haven't done anything wrong. And these are the worst. I mean, people who think, well, they can't wait to tell their side or try to explain themselves to the police officer. And it's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. It's completely out of your control. You're hoping that the officer is going to paraphrase you correctly. These aren't even direct quotes that they're going to, and then it's on so many different things. And then if there's anything, they can make it twisted around to make it seem like you're not telling the truth and that you're being dishonest. Police officers are allowed to lie during interrogation, so they'll say, look, we got you on videotape. Your friend told us you did it.
They're allowed to do that.
DNA, fingerprints. None of it's true. And then it puts people in a situation of trying to explain that. Well, if you have it on videotape, I don't know, maybe this happened, maybe I don't remember correctly. And next thing you know, they get themselves in a world of trouble. And in our opinion, any case where someone hasn't given a statement is a good case because then it puts the burden on the prosecution of proving their case. And an example I give clients a lot is there may be a time and place to tell their side of the story. It is not right there when they're completely unprotected. It's not being recorded. And so we do have clients give statements, but we would sit down. I would be present with them. It's my client. I would be present. We would have it recorded. A lot of times we'll work out a deal that it can't even be used against them unless there's a deal worked out. And even then, I've had to kind of put a stop to sometimes the detectives' interrogation techniques. We're there, recorded, everyone's there, and I've still had, police officers or detectives where they'll say, they'll point out one thing that they're like, there was some sort of special greeting you had with your friend. It's completely irrelevant to the case. They'll be like, well, I don't remember anything about that. And then they'll start, why are you lying to me? Why are you lying to me? And it's like, so you have to kind of step in and say, look, they're trying to answer the questions honestly. And so, and the secret, here's the magic words to get out of making a statement without making it look like you're guilty or without being disrespectful to the police officer, which this is what people are concerned about. Well, if I don't say anything, it's going to make me look guilty. I'm going to upset the officer. The best thing to do is just say, I'd like to talk to my attorney first. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say you're not going to say anything or you know your rights or anything like that. Just say, you know, I'd like to talk to my attorney. And they say, well, you know, if you didn't do anything wrong, why didn't you talk to your attorney? Just say, I don't know. My attorney's asked me to talk to him before I make any statements.
Put it all on the attorney.
And yeah, and then we'll take the heat. We'll say, hey, look, you know, and then they'll say, well, we want to talk to your client. I'll be like, I know my client wants to talk to you, but I don't want him to talk to you yet. You know, and so we'll step in and, you know, they can give them our number if they want. We'll take that call anytime, but usually that's the best way to handle it. And whatever they say, if they try to, and you back off at some point. That's because you actually have a constitutional right to consult an attorney before you say anything. So, you know, they may push a little bit at that point, but at some point, if you just say, look, you know, you may be right. Maybe it's in my best interest to make a statement, but I'm going to go with the advice of my attorney, and I'm going to wait to talk to my attorney. My attorney says it's fine for me to talk to you. I'll be happy to tell you anything you want to know, but I want to check with my attorney first. That'll kind of get you off the hot seat, and then at least, you know, get some legal advice before you make a statement. And it's not uncommon for us to say, you know what, let's go and talk to let's make a statement to the police. Let's explain what happened. But it's within our control, and it's a much better option. So that's, you know, the basic gist of it.
So those are the magic words. I'd like to talk to my attorney. With all due respect, I'd like to talk to my attorney before I make any statement.
And if they knock on your door and they want to search your house, instead of, you know, I would do the same thing. You know, instead of, you better come back here with a warrant, and people sort of engage with the police.
Right.
Just say, well, before I let you in, I'd like to consult with my attorney. Well, we'll come back with the warrant. Well, if you need, you know, do what you need to do. I just would like to check with my attorney before I do anything. And that's
but
the
said with
best
respect,
way to handle it.
Said with respect, not with
Yep.
defiance. I've been told that, and I practice this. If you're stopped and you're sitting in your car, put your hands up on the steering wheel so they can see your hands. There's no threat. Your hands. I roll down all my windows so they can see in the car. There's nothing in the car that's dangerous, or that's what I've been told. And
That's a good idea. Don't start fishing around under your seat.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's just a safety issue too. If you don't want to
Yes.
get, you know, if you don't want to put yourself in jeopardy, because they're gonna assume you're reaching for a weapon or something. We see
Yeah.
that all the time. So, you know, they don't know at that point. They're going to err on the side of caution. If you start fishing around under your seat and look in the back seat, your guns are probably coming out, and
Right.
it's going to take a whole different turn. At
And
that
on the
point.
other hand, one thing you do is when you see the police passing by, whatever, you are always praying for them.
I've just started a habit that every time I see a cop car, if I can remember to do it, I just send up a little prayer for them. That I'm on, you know, Lord, bless that officer and his family and his partners, keep them safe, you know, draw them close to you, and help them do their job. And
Yes.
and it's just a way of connecting and cooperating with our law enforcement because we
Right.
need them.
And Don, this might sound funny, but earlier I had asked him about Perry Mason. But I actually,
You know, we all ask that question.
I actually learned something from watching Perry Mason. My husband we got a stack of these old VHS movies. But Perry Mason, I heard him say things like when he's talking to his client, don't tell them just what you were saying earlier. Before speaking with the police, talk to your attorney. And then another thing, when I see him in the courtroom, he says, what if I told you I had a video of you doing such and such? Or what if I said blah, blah, blah? You know, he's not saying, I saw you. He's not lying. He's, what if I said? And then, of course, according to the Perry Mason movie, the person always goes into hysteria or something, thinking, oh, no, he's got me. And he says, well, now I said, what if I said?
Well, not all of that is realistic. I mean, and that's what's frustrating for us sometimes, though, is that the questions, like if we were to do interrogations, cross-examination in front of a full court, if we were to ask the questions officers ask, it would be objected to in a minute, and we, you know, like questions like, well, you know, sir, have you stopped beating your wife yet?
Yes.
You know, that's like an improper question, but this is
Oh,
the bread and
my.
butter of officers' interrogation techniques. So this is what they do. And yet we're not, you know, so we probably would not be allowed to say, hey, what if I had a video? We might, but they would probably say, you know, what is the relevance of this? If he doesn't have a video, and you have to talk about it with the judge and
Yeah.
decide whether you can even, you know, ask questions like that. So, but, you know, when we talked about it yesterday, I do think the thing to take from sort of the Perry Mason thing is that don't ever assume you know what happens. And at least as a criminal defense attorney, everyone else is already assuming guilt. You know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the jurors, probably the district attorney, and so they, you know, we don't need to join that club. And
Right.
unfortunately, some attorneys, this guy is clearly guilty, and I'll go in there and put up some, you know, make a show of putting up a fight, but I think he did it, and you know. Everyone needs someone at least to hear them out.
Yes.
And sometimes they'll say, you know what, I made a mistake, I did it, I just want a fair deal.
Oh.
And then that's, you know, and I think that's one of the big issues is that the standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt is gone. The presumption of innocence is gone.
Why is that? Where did it go?
Because people assume guilt. They
And when did
assume
all that-
why would you be arrested? Why would you be charged? Why would all these people think you did something? They did all this investigation. Why would they think that if you didn't do it? And I'm saying, look at social media sites. No one ever assumes, oh, well, let's assume they're innocent. No, they start off assuming they're guilty. And it's too bad because the whole system rests on this principle that they're given the presumption of innocence. So the whole thing doesn't work when people come in there, jurors come in there and say, well, you know, I bet he did it. He's probably guilty. I'll keep the possibility open that they're innocent, but it better be pretty good if to convince me they're innocent. It should be the other way around. We should sit there and say, we give the example sometimes of ask jurors to, like, picture the most innocent person they know, the person they would be most shocked to hear that they'd been charged with a crime. You know, their mother or aunt or
Right.
grandmother or something. And so if you get a call and they're like, you know, your grandmother's been charged with a crime, you would be like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But it wouldn't be impossible to convince you, but you would need to see very convincing proof.
Yes.
And that's the way you're supposed to treat a defendant. That, like, we're not going to believe it until we see, you know,
That's excellent.
overwhelming proof that they're guilty. But it's almost an impossible thing to ask because it's just we're sort of wired to assume. But I think part of the mistakes people make is that we hear a lot of times, well, why would they have gotten all the way to trial if they're not guilty?
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite. There's probably at least 95% of cases settle without going to trial. And so, and even more of the cases we handle, you know, sometimes there's murder cases where there's either no offer made or it's such a high, you know, 40 years to life. The guy's like, well, what's the point of not taking it to trial? But most cases, a lot of the cases we handle, people have the decision. Taking a deal means they may not have to do any time in custody. They get, you know, maybe probation, and they're pleading guilty, but they can basically do some work release or community service and do some classes beyond probation, but kind of go on with their life. If they go to trial and lose, they're looking at going to prison for maybe 5 years. And so we have clients all the time that I believe 100% are innocent.
Yes.
They're saying they're innocent, and they take a deal just because we don't trust that they're not going to that they're going to get a fair trial and that they're going to be presumed innocent. And when the stakes are that high, one option is your life kind of goes on. The other option is you go to prison and your life is never the same again. It's a very tough choice. And so it's probably the opposite of what people think. When someone goes to trial, they do that because they honestly believe they're innocent. A lot of times it's a matter of principle, and they want to tell their side of the story. They don't want to admit to something they didn't do. So to say, well, they're here at trial and they're accused, they must have done it. We're not saying everybody who's accused of a crime is innocent, but on the whole, people who are guilty are much more likely to take a deal. much more
When
likely.
we come back, we've got to ask you, Jesse. We've got to ask Jesse about if you're seeing disparities in racial makeup. Who's arrested? Who's not arrested? Who gets off? Who doesn't get off? Is there any kind of that in terms of race that you're seeing in our city? Apparently, they're seeing it in other cities. We'll talk to you about our city. So we'll be right back.